The views expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution which any panel member is associated. Welcome back to the Nova Society, a space where dialogue deepens understanding and civic responsibility comes to life. I'm Dr. Mark Bound, joined by our regular panel, Dr. Scott Gershwer and Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon. Together, we'll unpack the stories that matter most, exploring the headlines, the history, and the big ideas shaping today's conversations. Let's dive in and hear what the panel has for us today.
So today we have a question from our listener, Carl, who hails from Palm Beach, Florida. And Carl writes, okay, this seems even crazier for Trump. He is suing the IRS for $10 billion with a B because some contractor released his tax returns. He seems to think he can sue anyone, the IRS, the BBC, and now even Harvard. None of these lawsuits is on behalf of the American people, but for his own enrichment. Do any of these lawsuits have a chance? How can Trump sue an agency within his own area of purview? Sounds like a conflict of interest to me. Yeah, I know. He loves to sue everybody. It's ridiculous in my opinion, but Mark, Scott?
What do you think, Scott?
Well, I'm going to channel Dean Baker here, the economist.
Okay.
Because Dean Baker has a column out today that says this is the most efficient grift ever. That even invading Venezuela to kidnap the president and then hold him hostage while you grab their oil required some level of work. But once he discovered that he is the decision maker on whether there's a lawsuit or not, a successful lawsuit or not, all he has to do is pick up the phone, call Pam Bondi, and say, you're suing your own department or the IRS for $10 billion. And yes, I will be signing off on the guilty plea and holding the government liable. Taxpayers will be giving me another $10 billion. And she's not going to, as we know from South Park, she's not going to say no to him about that.
Yeah, this is a huge grift. Because let's remember, that $10 billion, that comes from the taxpayer. So all you MAGAs, get ready to fork up because you're going to be paying for it. It is an amazing thing. You would think it would be a conflict of interest, especially that he is suing the agency for something that happened. First of all, the agency did not do this. The IRS did not release his tax returns. This was a contractor that did this, and it was done during his presidency while he was in office. So he can't even blame this on Joe Biden, although I'm sure Joe Biden will come into this at some point in time. This is not on behalf of the American people. The BBC and Harvard, none of this is on behalf of the American people, unless you want to consider Harvard, the fact that he's saying they're so anti-Semitic and they've got to pay. My hope is that Harvard stands up and says, go pound salt in your ass. The BBC has already basically said it. I don't know if the IRS, what they can do, which makes this such a conflict of interest. What can the IRS say? No, guy that we all report to, we're not doing. I mean, I don't see how this happens. I have watched some of the commentary from some of the legal experts on this, and none of them think this is going to fly, that this isn't going to go anywhere. Once again, usually when somebody, and I think it was somebody on CNN, Ellie Honig, who is one of their legal commentators, said, you always know it's crap when they have nice round numbers, 10 billion, 5 billion, 1 billion, and they're astronomical numbers. Then you know that it's probably that it's crap, because it's just not going to happen. Usually they don't announce how much money they want. They just say, listen, I'm suing. And they leave it then up to a jury of 12 individual citizens to make a determination how much you're going to get. But, when you start throwing out these astronomical numbers like this, and they're nice round numbers, he goes, that is a sure sign to many in the legal profession and many of the judges that this is probably nothing more than absolute bullshit, which I think it is. And it's a grift. And I think Scott has a great point that this is probably one of the most easiest and potentially successful grifts if he can pull it off. But I honestly don't think he's going to be able to pull it off.
Can the IRS apply to the Supreme Court?
That would
And
mean
say, "Look,
that would mean
be his judge doing it. I mean, his prosecutor doing it. Like, when you control both sides of a legal matter, I don't think that there's any real recourse on it.
My question is, who defends the IRS in this?
They can't hire.
Right, the Solicitor General is
somewhere. It just seems to me, if it's such an obvious conflict of interest, the IRS should be able to find someone who legal counsel from somewhere.
I mean, like Mark pointed out, he was actually the head of the government when this happened, so he'd be suing himself basically, or he's ultimately responsible for this, and now he's suing for something that happened on his watch. It's like the whole thing is just so idiotic that the fact that we're spending this much time talking about it is just crazy. The only one more thing that Dean Baker points out, which I think is probably something that should be told to the MAGA people who probably don't even know this is happening because their news outlets aren't covering it, is that your healthcare costs went up by quite a bit of money because Republicans didn't want to spend $30 billion a year to insure 22 million people. And that now Trump is asking you to hand him a third of that money for himself rather than give healthcare affordable for 22 million Americans. That seems like something even an idiot MAGA person could understand. Hopefully they'll be against that and make it clear that this is just inappropriate and stupid and blatantly a grift and of no value to anybody. But again, here we are, we're still talking about it. And these last two sessions that we've had about Melania Trump and about this grift is just beneath the dignity of this august body. We should be talking about what's going on in Iran or what's going on around the world, and the weaponization of our own government against us, and so on and so forth. This is just nonsense.
Well, there you go. Sorry, Carl. I hope the weather down there in Palm Beach, Florida, is a lot better than it was up here in South Carolina. So let's move to the next one.
Put a hat on.
Well, Florida got snow.
Yes, good for them.
Florida got
watch
snow.
Out for the iguanas falling out of the trees.
I hope, Carl, that you have heating in your house. Thank you for your question, Carl. We appreciate it. Yes, thank you. So today we have a question from Samantha from Casper, Wyoming. And Samantha writes, well, the DOJ released more Epstein files. With all that is going on, it seems rather anticlimactic. Bill Gates, Bill Clinton, Richard Branson, and a host of other economic and political elites are among the list of people mentioned in the $3 million documents, released the other day. And there are still another 3 million left to be seen. It's being reported that Trump is mentioned more than 4,000 times. Congress has subpoenaed the Clintons, and they have finally agreed, but they want their testimony to be in an open session. My first question is, why would the Clintons want this? Secondly, isn't Clinton immune from prosecution according to the SCOTUS ruling about presidential immunity? Finally, why are no Republicans, including Trump, being targeted by Congress for testimony? Trump seems to have a lot more shit on his stick than many of those Congress wants to talk to. That's an excellent question. Thank you, Samantha. I don't know if Bill Clinton committed his crimes while he was president.
It really doesn't matter. Bill Clinton says he's gonna testify in front of Congress. I think we should all look forward to that. It should be very entertaining, if nothing else. I mean, remember when they dragged Hillary in front of the House and grilled her for 11 hours straight? She never stood up. She just sat there answering one question after another, and they didn't lay a glove on her. The Clintons are way too smart for the Republicans who get elected to Congress, including this moron James Comer. So I don't think that anything is going to happen to Bill Clinton or Hillary Clinton or any of this. The thing that should bother the American people is that the FBI has confirms that it has moved agents who were working on real important things to come to Washington, D.C. and redact files that have Donald Trump's name on them. And that supposedly they've redacted his name over like 100,000 documents or something like that. You know, there's 1,000 FBI agents pulling all-nighters, looking over 100,000 documents, redacting his name from things, and yet we have not seen a single email from Trump that's in these documents. So whatever they were redacting, that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing apparently other things. Or if we are seeing, and they've redacted his name from, for example, the one that said, the littlest girl you had was kind of naughty. I don't remember the exact wording, but somebody pointed out that it is the kind of wording that Trump actually does use. That this Epstein thing is deep and thick, and not just disturbing, but like more than disturbing, and that a lot of people are involved in it. That Kash Patel and others testified in front of Congress that there was nothing to see here, and apparently there's quite a bit to see here. That Vladimir Putin's name is on a lot of documents in this trove of Epstein file documents, and that he is somehow involved, possibly by using Epstein as his financial advisor. Again, back to my theme, when John Thune grows the testicles that he needs to be able to go up to the White House and say, sir, with tears in his eyes, sir, it's time for you to step down. Your position as president of the United States is no longer viable. You're obviously compromised. If we know this, other agencies around the world know this. And that they can blackmail you to keep it out of the newspapers and keep it away from the public. And it is thoroughly discrediting, compromising, frightening that the president of the United States is associated with these things, whether he's involved in them or just knew about it and said nothing, whether he was actively involved in covering up for Epstein, whether he was participating, as some people have suggested. Like, why does the March 11th, 2014 email to Jeffrey Epstein that says, thank you for a fun night. Your littlest girl was a little naughty, sent from my iPhone. Why is the sender of that message protected by the Department of Justice? You were supposed to be protecting the victims, not the victimizers. And this is like a sick, very, very short, brief message that says so much is wrong with the United States, and that we really need to re-examine how we're going to treat people, whether there's tiers of justice, whether there's one set of rules for everybody except for the wealthiest, who play by a whole new different set of rules and can get away with this kind of thing and get away with it for so long, such a long period of time. We need to look into the fact that there are foreign governments involved in this, including the former Prime Minister of Norway, who has apologized and said, I shouldn't have been involved with Epstein, but I was. Who, Steve Bannon is involved in this. And a dialogue between Steve Bannon and Jeffrey Epstein says, and this is really sorry, forgive me, that he saw Trump walking around in his undies at his house and asks her if he knows who, do you know Marianne, Donald's new friend, Madeleine Westerhout? Very funny. She's a receptionist, good kid. Grundoon, which is like a weird thing that Bannon does. Epstein says, knee pads, doing God's work. Bannon says, laughing my ass off. Epstein says he's much more calm, but the sight of him in the residence in his underwear is in his undies is hard to fathom. I'll give you details when I see you. The two things he dreads at the moment is that an email from his ex saying that he has a small dick and his transcript. Bannon says staying away from his family over the holidays, a huge tell. Epstein says that's for Madeleine. For the record, Madeleine Westerhout was a scheduler who worked in the White House, who resigned after she got drunk and told the media that Trump didn't want to be seen with Tiffany because Tiffany was overweight and it embarrassed him. And she was fired for that reason. She was traveling with Trump all the time and needs to be pulled in front of a committee, needs to be pulled in front of a jury, needs to come, because she's already done it once before. She confirmed that she talked to Michael Cohen, Trump's lawyer / fixer, to schedule a visit to the White House where he was demanding repayment for $130,000 that he had laid out to give to Stormy Daniels, the porn actress who had to keep her quiet about the sexual encounter she had with Trump. Like, all this stuff has been litigated. She has admitted to all of this stuff. We need to get more out of her, because if we know the little that we know, we have to assume that other governments know also. And that puts Trump in an untenable position where he cannot remain in the White House anymore because he is too easily blackmailed. There's too much leverage on him from other people, other countries. This is not a grift. This is some scary stuff that has national security implications. We have to do something about this. John Thune, the nation turns its lonely eyes to you. Get up there and get him out.
Pretty much all of this, and Scott makes a very good point. If you were going for a security clearance, you wouldn't be able to get one. Now, I'm not going to say that Trump is the first one to have, as the writer puts on, shit on their stick. Warren Harding was known for doing his secretary in a bathroom right off the Oval Office. John Kennedy was not innocent when it came to these kind of things. Bill Clinton was not innocent when it came to these kind of things. This is not something totally unusual, other than the fact that we're talking about young women, very young girls, and this is sex trafficking. Monica Lewinsky can't claim to be one of those. The girl that Warren Harding was doing could not claim to be one of those. Marilyn Monroe cannot claim to be one of those with John F. Kennedy. So this is fundamentally different. It is interesting that they're bringing in the Clintons, and I agree with Scott. The idea is, yes, the Clintons want this front and center. They're going to make a spectacle of this. Because if we haven't seen before, and as Scott pointed out, Hillary Clinton just basically ate their lunch the last time. We're talking about Hillary Clinton, who was by all accounts an extremely good lawyer, and the Rhodes Scholar attorney, Bill Clinton. These guys are way out of your league. And if we didn't see how quickly that really good lawyers how quickly they can make the Congress, the Republican congressman, look bad, just go to the Jack Smith testimony. Jack Smith just absolutely just ate their lunch. I mean, here's a skilled prosecutor basically looking at them and doing just like what Hillary Clinton did, sitting there answering the questions and making them look like complete idiots. So yeah, I can understand why they would want to do it. I mean, it sheds light onto Comer and some of these other Supposedly, they think they're very good at this lawyering thing that are in Congress, and it will expose them for what they are. I mean, it's going to be a complete disaster. It's going to be a sideshow. Once again, performative. It's more performative than anything else. And it is interesting that, they're picking out, Democrats and, Bill Gates and this one and that one, but they're not bringing in Steve Bannon. They're not bringing in Trump. They're not bringing in a whole host of people from that are on that other side. That again, if you can't see the logic behind that or the motivation behind that, then you're simply not paying any kind of attention. The fact is Blanche said, well, there's no law against partying with Epstein. Okay, I'll give you that, as long as you're not doing something illegal while you're doing it. There was a failure to make that that distinction, and him saying, well, there's not going to be any prosecutions for this. Okay, so why are we bringing the Clintons in then? If you're not going to prosecute anybody, why are you bringing the Clintons in? Again, for me, it's nothing but performative. But to Scott's point about these national security issues that we have here, and they are significant. They're extremely significant. Look at the recent deal that was made with somebody who was the UAE, where Trump sold them some Bitcoin stuff, and he got something in return. This is all basically it's not even, it's a grift, but it's so far. Grifts are usually not as out in the open as this. This is just basic dishonesty. This is basically enriching himself. And that's why I kind of hope that when he gets out of office, they throw his ass into jail where he can't enjoy the fruits of all of the grifting that he has done. Will it happen? Probably not. Because we unfortunately associate the office with the person. And the fact is that they're two separate things. We have had some really, really bad presidents. We really have. And that's okay. That's going to happen. And we've had a bunch of them. We've had 47. And we've had some really bad ones. But the fact is that we have to, if you're going to maintain the integrity of the office, you have to understand that sometimes the person that's going to be in the office is not going to have the integrity that the office demands or the office deserves. And if that is the case, you must then, to maintain the integrity of the office, hold that person accountable for the actions that they took, whether they were in office or whether they weren't. It's that simple. And you asked, Brooke, was this done when Clinton was president? I don't believe that it was. I don't know if it was done while Trump was president at any point in time. Some of the correspondence, the idea, the FBI, Scott again brings up a great point. They're doing some important work somewhere. We don't hear about it because we're basically hearing about all this other horse shit that's going on. They brought them in to do the redactions, and the redactions were to take out any of the victims. And they couldn't even get that right. They couldn't even get that right. And it's like, are you guys kidding me? So I firmly believe that the victims of these crimes, of this sex trafficking, they demand, and they have a right to demand justice for this. But whether we like it or not, we have a multi-tier system of justice. And that's all that there is to it. The rich can basically hold these things up forever with motions and lawyers and things like that. They have that capacity. They have the money and the wealth to be able to do it. You're going to bring in Bill Gates? Fine. You know what Bill Gates is going to do? He's going to send his army of lawyers, and he's going to overwhelm you. And these guys aren't schmokies. They're pretty good at what they do. Go after, a lot of times we say go after the low-hanging fruit. Go after Bannon. He's not a terribly wealthy man. Go after him. Don't go after Trump, because, again, we're going to have that misconception that the office and the person go together, and that they both, because you held the office. I want to hear, here's the thing that's going to really be interesting to me. When Clinton is in that committee hearing, how are they going to address him? That, to me, is going to be extremely interesting. Are they going to address him as Mr. Clinton, or are they going to address him as they're supposed to, Mr. President? because he doesn't lose the title. And it'll be extremely interesting to see how that is framed when that hearing begins. So again, this is silliness. It really is, because in the bottom line, those young women that were abused and sex trafficked, they're not going to get the justice they deserve. And that tells me that there's a real problem. Forget the Supreme Court, forget everything else. That tells me there's a real problem with justice in the United States. Yeah, bro.
If former President Clinton is misaddressed and he corrects them and they ignore it, then that also sends a very strong message.
Oh, absolutely.
Of disrespect. As I understood it, the hearings where the Clintons are going to testify, what I saw are going to be closed door. And I'm hopeful that our questioner, Samantha, is correct, that it will be open.
Well, that's one of the things the Clintons have insisted upon.
Good. It needs to be open and available to the public. It cannot be closed session.
And there's no reason why they wouldn't, because Jack Smith insisted upon the same thing. And he got it. And boy, did that turn out to be a disaster for the Republicans. I mean, and I've always said, there's a whole bunch of lawyers in Congress. There's a ton of them. And if they were any good at being lawyers, they'd still be lawyers making a hell of a lot more money than they're making in Congress. This is going to be David against Goliath. And at this point in time, those Republican congressmen aren't Goliath, because they are out of their league, absolutely out of their league.
Yeah, Mark, you mentioned something I want to talk a little bit more about as a little parenthetical to this. You mentioned the United Arab Emirates deal.
Yes.
And this was in the Wall Street Journal, which is not a left-wing rag,
No, it's not.
Exactly. He's owned by Rupert Murdoch, and he's been a big Trump supporter. And the article basically reveals that the White House has been for sale since before day one. And one of the weird things about Comer, this is James Comer, is the head of the House Ways and Means Committee, I think, or Oversight, one of those, Oversight Committee, is that he says that everything that Trump does is above board because he does it openly. And the fact is that if you lie to people openly, that's not transparent. And if you steal money from people, but you do it in plain sight of everybody can see you doing it, that doesn't make it not criminal. The fact that you're upfront about it just makes it worse. It makes it more arrogant. It adds insults to injury. And in this particular case with the United Arab Emirates, I think it's really important that our listeners understand what happened. And that is that before Trump was inaugurated, a sheikh, Tanoon, I'm not going to say the rest of his name, from Abu Dhabi, the brother to the president of the United Arab Emirates, the government's national security advisor, a leader of the largest wealth funds, paid $500 million to the Trump family and friends to purchase 49% of the World Liberty Financial, a cryptocurrency business. He paid half that money up front. He gave Trump $187 million in a week or so before the inauguration, and the deal was never disclosed until the Wall Street Journal broke this on Monday of this week. In return for what you have to describe as generosity, because the company itself is worthless, it's run by Eric Trump. It doesn't do anything. It makes no money. But in return for that generosity, the Trump administration committed to give the UAE access to about 500,000 of the most advanced AI chips a year. enough for them to be players as creating one of the biggest AI data center clusters in the world. And what's significant about it from a ordinary citizen standpoint is that the deal went against long-time national security concerns, because the company that this guy runs that is getting these chips, these advanced AI chips, does business regularly with Chinese companies that are sanctioned by the US government. And so the fear, and Biden expressed this clearly when he denied China access to these chips, was that the China is using the UAE to get AR hardware that has been denied them by the US government in this way, and that Trump allowed them to do that because they paid him $500 million to do so. And that the AI firm G42 from the United Arab Emirates has close ties to Huawei and other Chinese firms, and is going to be steering about a fifth of those 500,000 chips to this particular company. And so for a deal worth 49% of world liberty, undisclosed, unannounced, secret deal, our security has been sold out for $500 million. How does anybody feel good about that? It is the grift of all grifts, and it puts the United States in harm's way by literally giving the most important advanced AI technology to our adversaries in exchange for money. And that's what the President of the United States did. And it's a really, really tough one to get over. And I hope everybody understands. I know not everybody reads the Wall Street Journal, but this article was an eye-opener. And of course, a dozen things have happened since then to try to distract from it. And the scandals keep getting worse and worse and more disgusting. But, there are certain incidents that have happened that you need to put a pin in and keep up on the board and don't let it go. And this is one of those.
And you know what, Scott? I think a lot of cases, what's going to come down is people are going to say, oh, well, that's too complicated to figure out. And the fact is, it's not. This is not complicated to figure out. These people basically run the world, and Trump has got himself in there, and they have access to the most powerful country for right this moment. They have access to the highest office in the country. And they do it by simply bribing. And I'll bring back the same point. If somebody was trying to go for a security clearance for the United States, somebody in the military, somebody in the government, somebody wherever, if they had Trump's background, if they had Trump's series of actions that he has taken, and they connect the dots on this stuff. They definitely connect the dots on this stuff. He'd never be able to get it. I mean, you wouldn't let him use the executive bathroom at this point in time with how unreliable and how corrupt, how much the potential to corrupt him actually exists. And I think that's something that a lot of people just seem to miss the point on. This is the guy that basically controls your lives, and he's being controlled by adversaries, plain and simple. Adversaries, because he's only interested in how much money he can get for himself and his family. I don't even think he gives a shit about the family. I think he just thinks that he's doing it's just for himself. And it's an ego trip. People can say that it's because he's mentally unstable or whatever. I think it's just exactly the way he's always been. People act exactly as you expect them to, and Donald Trump is the epitome of that philosophy, because he is acting exactly as we would expect him to.
Yeah, and I think as he gets older and less capable, he is going to become more avaricious. in an attempt to desperate attempts to maintain and increase his control.
Oh, yeah.
And to gain more for himself. I've noticed patterns like that in other elderly people that I've been around. Their negative characteristics tend to become more and more exaggerated as they age.
Yeah, if anybody thinks this is going to change,
No.
you're fooling yourself.
It's going to worsen. In my experience with older people, this will continue to worsen.
And we know older people because we're them.
Yeah, well, not quite
Not quite
age.
His them, but we are.
And we're not at his unwellness level either.
My wife is happy to remind me that this month I turned 65. She gets great pleasure out of that. So I said, okay. I have a doctor appointment, regular blood work, normal stuff comes in February. And I got to use my Medicare card for the first time. And she thought that was hilarious.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, happy birthday this month, Mark.
Oh God. Yeah. I don't have birthdays. My wife and I got married on my birthday. So we only have her anniversary. I haven't had a birthday in 20 some odd years.
Okay. So like Lucille Ball, you're 29.
I'm 40. I'd be 40, but I'm okay with it. I'm okay with 40. I'll go back to 40 any day.
Yep. I agree. 40's good. So thank you, Samantha, for the question. And we will see you all again next time.
And that's all the time we have for today's episode. The Nova Society is a production of Nova Society Media, a division of the Phoenix Research Institute. We want to thank our production partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing team, Apple Podcasts, the largest source of podcast and music online, Spotify, the most popular platform for the Nova Society, and iHeartRadio, your destination for all things music and podcasting. The Nova Society is available on all of these and other quality platforms listed in our description. And most importantly, we want to thank you, our listeners. Without your support, the Nova Society could not be possible. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing on the platform of your choice. It's easy, it's free, and helps our channel grow. For questions or comments, you can reach us at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. So on behalf of Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, Dr. Scott Gershworth, and all of our production partners here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Remember, the true power of society is knowledge. Thank you for listening, and we hope to see you again next time.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening!